Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today into the world of aging and finances.
Okay.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at the challenges that older adults face
Right.
when it comes to managing their money after retirement,
Yeah.
but also how social workers are really stepping up
Yes.
to address these issues.
Yeah.
But before we get too far,
Okay.
I want to throw out a pretty startling stat.
Okay.
Did you know that financial exploitation among older adults
Yeah.
is actually on the rise?
It is.
And one of the biggest factors is isolation.
It's true. And it's really concerning when you think about all the financial pressures that a lot of older adults are facing today, right?
Yeah.
Rising living costs, increasing healthcare expenses. It's just a recipe for strain,
It is.
especially for folks who are on fixed incomes.
Right. And it's easy to get caught up in the numbers.
Yeah.
But we're not just talking about statistics here. We're
Yeah.
talking about real people. One social worker actually shared a story
Okay.
about a client who was scammed by a contractor.
Oh, gosh.
This contractor took half the money up front for a home repair
Wow.
and then poof, vanished.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking to hear stories like that.
It is.
And unfortunately, it's a classic example of financial exploitation,
Right.
which is a huge problem, and it really highlights the crucial role
Yeah.
that social workers play in supporting older adults.
Right.
Their expertise goes way beyond just therapy.
Right.
They're providing practical assistance, guidance, and advocacy.
You've mentioned this before,
Yes.
but I think it's worth really digging into
Yeah.
this whole idea of the micro, mezzo, macro framework that social workers use.
Yeah.
Now, I got to be honest. When I first heard that, it sounded a little jargony,
I can see that.
but I have a feeling it's actually pretty straightforward.
It is. It is.
Can we break it down?
Yeah, let's break it down.
Okay.
So think of micro as that direct work with individuals. So like that client who was scammed,
Right.
a social worker at this level might provide financial counseling,
Okay.
help them create a budget,
Uh-huh.
or even connect them with resources to find a reliable contractor.
So very hands-on,
Very hands-on.
really addressing the immediate crisis.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about mezzo?
Mezzo.
What does that level involve?
So mezzo zooms out a bit.
Okay.
It's about supporting groups and communities.
Okay.
So imagine leading support groups for caregivers
Right.
who are often under immense stress,
Absolutely.
or collaborating with employers to create age-friendly workplaces.
Oh, interesting. So tackling some of the systemic issues
Exactly.
that might contribute to vulnerability
Yes.
in the first place.
Okay.
And then macro,
Macro.
that's the big picture stuff.
Big picture.
Right.
Exactly. Macro is about advocating for policy changes at a much broader level.
Got it.
So think about social workers fighting for increased SSI benefits,
Yeah.
supplemental security income, or pushing for affordable health care legislation.
Right.
It's about creating a society that truly supports its aging population.
It is. And honestly, I'm surprised by how much ground social work covers.
Yeah,
It's so much more than what I initially thought.
it really is. And one of the things that makes their work so effective
Yeah.
is that they really understand why older adults
Yeah.
are particularly vulnerable to these challenges.
This is what I find so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about the money, is it?
It is not just about the money.
It's about the whole person.
The whole person,
So
absolutely.
let's go back to that contractor scam for a second.
Okay.
Yes, financial pressure plays a role.
Absolutely.
But imagine that client was also feeling isolated
Yeah.
and lonely. Suddenly, a friendly face offering help
Yeah.
can seem like such a lifeline,
Even
even if their intentions aren't good. It's
exactly.
almost like the need for connection
Yes.
can kind of overshadow caution
It can.
in these situations.
Yes.
So loneliness itself
Yes.
becomes a risk factor.
It does.
And
Yeah.
we can't forget about cognitive decline either,
Right.
which, is a natural part of aging for some.
For some people, yes.
And that can make it harder to spot red flags
Absolutely.
or to make those sound financial decisions.
It's true.
So we've got trust, we've got cognitive changes,
Uh-huh.
we've got isolation.
Yes.
It really does create this perfect storm
It does.
for potential exploitation.
Yeah.
And this brings up a really crucial point. I
Yeah.
think abuse isn't always physical,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
Financial exploitation is a form of abuse.
It is.
Using someone's resources without their consent
Yeah.
or taking advantage of their vulnerability is devastating.
It is. And it's often coupled with other forms of abuse, too.
Oh, right.
Like neglect or emotional manipulation.
It's truly heartbreaking, and it makes you wonder
Yeah.
how many cases go unnoticed.
So many.
especially if someone is isolated.
Especially if they're isolated. That's why awareness is so important.
Right.
We need to be aware of the signs. Be willing to ask difficult questions.
Yep.
And know how to report suspected abuse.
Absolutely. Now, something that really jumped out at me in the research was this connection between self-esteem
Yes.
and vulnerability.
Interesting.
It's not something we typically associate with finances.
Right.
But
it's a critical link.
it is.
Self-esteem is about feeling worthy,
Okay.
capable, and optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
When self-esteem is low,
Yeah.
it's much easier to fall prey to manipulation.
Okay.
You might doubt yourself,
Yeah.
feel like you deserve bad treatment,
Right.
or believe those empty promises from a scammer.
That's a really powerful insight.
It is.
It almost feels like low self-esteem makes someone a magnet for exploitation.
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that.
Okay.
There's definitely a correlation.
Yeah.
And that's why fostering self-esteem in older adults is so vital.
Okay.
It's about nurturing their sense of purpose.
Right.
Their confidence, their ability to advocate for themselves.
So it's not just about protecting older adults from something,
Right.
but empowering them to something.
Exactly.
To be active participants in their own well-being.
Yes.
Now, while we're on the topic of support systems,
Okay.
let's clear up a common misconception
Okay.
about social safety nets
All right.
that we came across in our research.
Okay.
You're talking about the idea that SSI is only for older adults. Yes, one of our sources mentioned that,
Okay.
but it didn't sound quite right.
Yeah, you're right to be skeptical.
Okay.
While SSI can be a lifeline for older adults who haven't worked enough to qualify for Social Security retirement benefits,
Right.
it's actually a broader program.
Okay, so let's break that down.
Yeah.
What exactly is SSI and who is it for?
So SSI, or Supplemental Security Income,
Okay.
is designed to help people with limited income and resources,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of their age.
Okay.
It's based on need, not age.
That's a crucial distinction. So SSI is about need,
Yes.
while Social Security retirement benefits are tied to your work history.
Exactly. And both play an essential role in preventing financial hardship.
Right.
But it's important to understand the differences.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about the challenges, the vulnerabilities,
Mm-hmm.
the role of social workers.
Yes.
But what can our listeners do?
That's a great question.
What are some concrete steps they can take
Yeah.
to protect the older adults in their lives?
That's the million-dollar question. And luckily, our sources provided some fantastic tips on prevention and intervention.
Excellent. Let's dive into those practical steps in the next part.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
All right, so let's get practical.
Okay.
One of the simplest yet most powerful things you can do is stay connected.
Oh.
You know, regular check-ins with the older adults in your life,
Right.
whether it's family, friends, or neighbors, can make a world of difference.
It really does take a village.
It does.
But what should we be looking for during these check-ins?
Yeah.
What are some red flags that might indicate a problem?
That's a great question. And it's not always obvious.
Right.
But some common warning signs
Oh.
include sudden changes in behavior,
Cool.
withdrawal from social activities they used to enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
or unexplained financial transactions.
Okay.
And trust your gut.
Yeah.
You know, if something feels off,
Yeah.
it probably is.
Okay, so let's say I notice something concerning.
Okay.
What's the next step?
Yeah.
Should I confront the older adult directly?
You know, direct confrontation can sometimes backfire,
Okay.
especially if fear or shame is involved.
Right?
Instead, try starting a conversation.
Okay.
Express your concern and let them know you're there to support them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Just creating that safe space.
Exactly.
And to open up. But what if they're reluctant to talk?
Yeah.
What if they insist everything is fine?
Persistence is key. Just keep checking in. Keep offering support.
Right.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone.
Okay.
There are resources available, like Adult Protective Services,
Right.
who can help assess the situation and intervene if necessary.
So it's about being an advocate,
It is.
a voice for someone who might not be able to speak up for themselves.
Absolutely.
That's a powerful role to play.
It is.
Now, what about prevention?
Okay, good question.
What can we do to proactively protect older adults
Right.
from these situations in the first place?
Yeah, prevention is crucial.
Okay.
You know, we can empower older adults to protect themselves
No.
by educating them about common scams,
Okay.
helping them manage their online security,
Right.
and encouraging open communication about their finances with trusted family or friends.
So it's about giving them the tools to be their own first line of defense.
Exactly.
Knowledge is power,
It is.
especially in this context.
Yes.
Now I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
This idea that isolation can be a risk factor.
Right.
Our research mentioned a concept called socio-emotional selectivity theory,
Yes.
and I'm really curious to learn more about it.
Okay.
Can you explain it in simple terms?
Of course. So socio-emotional selectivity theory suggests that as we age, our focus naturally shifts
Right.
towards emotional satisfaction.
Okay.
We prioritize close relationships, meaningful experiences,
All right.
and things that bring us joy.
That sounds pretty positive.
It is. It's about making the most of the time we have
Right.
and savoring those connections that truly matter.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
This inward focus can sometimes lead to increased isolation.
Right.
Older adults might withdraw from social situations that feel draining or less rewarding, even if those connections were once important.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
It is.
On one hand, you're seeking emotional well-being, but on the other, you might be inadvertently limiting your social circle, making yourself more vulnerable.
Exactly. And it makes our role in supporting older adults even more important.
It does.
We need to understand that isolation isn't always a choice.
Okay.
It can be a byproduct of this natural shift in priorities.
Right.
And we need to find creative ways to help older adults stay connected without sacrificing their emotional well-being.
So how do we do that?
That's the question.
How do we balance this need for emotional satisfaction with the importance of a broader social network?
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Okay.
You know, those activities and connections that bring genuine joy and purpose.
Right.
Maybe it's joining a book club, volunteering at a local charity, or simply having regular phone calls with family and friends.
Right.
The key is to tailor those connections to the individual's interests and abilities.
It's about quality over quantity.
It is.
Right. Finding those connections that truly enrich their lives.
Exactly.
And I imagine technology has a role to play here too.
Absolutely. Technology can be a fantastic tool for combating isolation.
Wow.
You know, video calls, online communities, even social media.
Right.
These can all help older adults stay connected with loved ones and engage with the world around them.
But of course, with technology, there's always that flip side to consider.
There is.
Right.
Sure.
The potential for online scams.
Yeah.
The digital divide for those who aren't tech savvy.
Right.
It's a complex landscape.
It's a very complex landscape. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Technology is a powerful tool,
but
it's not a silver bullet.
Right.
We need to be mindful of those potential downsides and work to bridge that digital divide,
Right.
ensuring all older adults have the skills and support
Okay.
to navigate the online world safely and effectively.
It all comes back to finding that balance.
It does that.
Doesn't it? Embracing the benefits while mitigating the risks.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to the vital role
Right.
that social workers play in all of this.
Precisely. Social workers are those navigators, those advocates who can help older adults access the resources they need, whether it's financial counseling, healthcare support, or simply a listening ear.
Yeah.
They're on the front lines.
They are.
Tirelessly working to empower older adults to live their best lives.
And it's not just about the older adults themselves, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about supporting their caregivers.
Yes.
Their families, their entire support system.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that aging affects everyone.
Right.
And we all have a role to play
We do.
in creating a society that values and supports its older members.
I love that we've covered so much ground in this deep dive,
We have.
but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface
Yeah.
of this complex,
It is complex.
an incredibly important topic.
Yeah. And important. Yes, aging is a vast and multifaceted subject,
It is.
and there's always more to learn.
Right.
But hopefully we've given our listeners some valuable insights and practical tips to carry with them.
And hopefully we've sparked some curiosity
Yeah,
to explore further.
I hope so.
Speaking of which, I have a
Okay.
provocative question for our listeners to ponder.
Okay.
As we wrap up today's deep dive,
All right.
we've talked about how technology can be both a help and a hindrance for older adults. But I'm curious, as technology keeps evolving, how might it reshape the landscape of aging and finances in the years to come? Will it be a force for greater independence and connection, or will it exacerbate existing inequalities?
Yeah.
It's something to think about.
That's a fantastic question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
It really highlights just how dynamic this topic is.
It does.
What we know today might be completely different tomorrow.
Right.
And that's both exciting and a bit daunting.
It definitely keeps us on our toes.
It doesn't.
But hey, that's what makes learning so much fun, right?
It is.
And speaking of learning, we've got some amazing online resources linked in the episode description.
Right.
For anyone who wants to dive deeper into this topic.
Yes, we do.
We've got links to organizations that provide financial guidance for older adults, resources for caregivers, and even tips on spotting and preventing elder abuse.
Yes.
So please check those out.
Please do.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
And the more we understand about the challenges and opportunities of aging, the better equipped we'll be to support ourselves, our loved ones, and our communities.
Well said.
Right.
And remember, this isn't just about aging. It's about creating a society that values and respects people of all ages.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing the contributions of older adults, celebrating their wisdom and experience, and ensuring they have the support they need to thrive.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So who knows? Maybe we'll revisit this topic in a future deep dive.
Yeah.
And see how things have evolved.
I would love that.
I would too.
Yeah.
Until then, keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep those conversations going.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.